Whenever we talk about the big cloud companies, everyone's eyes, they're always glued to one thing, revenue, right? But what if I told you the real story, the one that kind of predicts the future for every single CIO out there, is actually hiding in a totally different number? All right, let's get into it. For years, we've all measured the health of the cloud market by its earnings reports. But honestly, in the age of AI, that's like trying to drive down a highway by only looking in your rearview mirror. The most crucial signal for what's coming next? Well, it's right there in their financial reports, but it's not the number most people are watching. The whole game is changing, and it's changing fast. I mean, the demand for these super powerful AI processors is just insatiable, and it's turning the cloud from this world of seemingly endless resources into one where scarcity has to be carefully managed. So the question isn't just who's got the coolest features anymore. Now it's who's actually going to have the capacity and the power to run them. We need a totally new signal to figure all this out. And that new signal? It's capital expenditure, or, CapEx for short. This is the key clue we've been looking for. Forget about the quarterly revenue sprint for just a second. CapEx, that's the marathon strategy. It is the real, forward-looking indicator that tells us exactly where the cloud giants are placing their massive, multi-billion-dollar bets on the future. So what exactly is CapEx? Well, simply put, it's the money a company spends on all the big physical stuff, the absolute foundations of their business. We're talking about building these gigantic data centers, buying up huge plots of land, securing water rights, upgrading power grids, and, of course, buying literal mountains of the latest and greatest silicon. It's the cash that builds tomorrow's cloud. And this quote right here from analyst Sanchit Virgogia just nails it. It perfectly frames CapEx as a map of future problems. Think about it. This spending isn't random. When a company like this pours billions into power, they're basically telling us they expect a huge bottleneck with the electrical grid down the line. This is how we can spot these future constraints before they hit us. Okay, so let's put this whole theory to the test. Let's do what the title says. Let's follow the money and see what the spending plans of the three titans of cloud, AWS, Microsoft, and Google, really tell us about their strategies. And wow, the planned numbers for 2026 are just absolutely staggering. Look at this. Amazon is committing a massive $200 billion. Google isn't too far behind at $180 billion. And Microsoft, while still a huge number, is planning around $100 billion. The sheer scale is one thing, for sure. But the differences between these numbers, that hints at some very different priorities. This table breaks down their game plans beautifully. You've got AWS, with its $200 billion war chest, laser-focused on locking down the fundamental physical stuff. Power, silicon, land, water. They're essentially building a utility for the AI age. Then there's Google. They're targeting high-efficiency AI, sovereign clouds for regulated industries and renewables. They're positioning themselves as this specialized high-performance platform. And Microsoft? Well, they're all about AI infrastructure that's tightly coupled with their software empire, trying to drive Azure usage through the products you're probably already using every day. So here's the million-dollar question, or I guess the billion-dollar question. How does all this massive spending actually turn into revenue? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for us, the cloud customers? Because it's not just about building data centers. It's about how that brand new capacity gets sold and how that changes everything. Now, here's a look at the projected revenue for the end of 2025. You see AWS is forecast to lead, with Microsoft right on its heels, and Google a strong third. Those CapEx investments we just saw, they are designed specifically to pour fuel on this fire and make these already huge numbers even bigger. But the way they're doing it is changing. And here's how they're doing it. AWS is basically selling its future capacity today by getting customers to sign these big advanced commitments for AI services. It's kind of like pre-booking your spot to guarantee you have power. Microsoft, though, is playing a different game. They're embedding Azure usage right into software like GitHub and Microsoft 365. So you use their tools and you're quietly using their cloud, sometimes without even realizing it. So what does all of this mean for your business? Well, it means the cloud is becoming a seller's market. You can expect to have less leverage when you're negotiating prices. You're going to see way more upselling of bundled AI agents and other licenses. And that whole idea of elastic consumption we all loved, it's shifting towards more locked-in contract-based usage. And as these constraints get tighter, it's going to be a lot harder to just pick up your stuff and move to another provider. Okay, so with all that in mind, how can you, as a CIO, a tech leader, actually use these signals to your advantage? This isn't just about watching the market from the sidelines, it's about making smarter decisions for your own organization. Let's boil this all down to an actionable plan. It really comes down to a simple three-step approach.
First, anticipate the constraints. Keep an eye on those CapEx reports, see where they're spending big on things like power and land. That's your heads up for where things will get tight. Second, plan your timeline. Try to align your own major cloud projects with their big build-out schedules. You want to make sure the capacity you need is actually there when you need it. And third, assess your leverage. Go into those negotiations with your eyes wide open, understanding that the game has shifted towards these locked-in contracts and bundled deals.
At the end of the day, the era of cheap, abundant, and super flexible cloud, it's evolving. As these titans spend hundreds of billions of dollars to build the foundation for the next generation of AI, the entire landscape is being reshaped right before our eyes. So the real question you have to ask yourself is this. In this new world of managed scarcity and huge strategic bets, where's your company going to stand?